As Fawn has stated, the tiger has been caged. But can the denizens of Mainframe truly walk freely? The viral threat is still very real. And with Hexadecimal under Megabyte's control, anything could happen. Dot and Enzo are going to be put to very difficult tests this time up. Oh, and you might want some tissues handy for this one.
It looks as if you are right, my child. Megabyte is relying on Hexadecimal's power to penetrate the firewall.
Excellent. Lieutenant,
All forces ready, waiting your command, sir.
the way is clear. Take every legion and mount an all-out attack on the principal office. There are no shields to stop you. Take no prisoners, show no mercy. The city will be mine. Go.
Sir, yes, sir.
Game Over was written by Ian Pearson, with story by Gavin Blair, Phil Mitchell, and Ian Pearson. The main cast includes Kathleen Barr as Dot, Christopher Gray as Enzo, Tony J as Megabyte, Shirley Milner as Hexadecimal, Andrea Libman as Andrea, Luis Valance as Mouse, Michael Donovan as Fawn, Scott McNeil as Hack and Air Doctor, and Gary Chalk as Slash and Cyrus. Megabyte assembles his troops in a massive formation as the episode opens, and, coercing Hexadecimal with the pain collar, opens a small rift into the firewall and has had his forces stream out in practically single file. This is key, because Dot has turrets set up throughout the system and around the principal office. But she hesitates for a long time. The other sprites and police binom start staring at her, waiting for her to give the order. Until it's clear what she's waiting for. Megabyte to appear. But of course, he knows better, so eventually Fawn and Enzo convince her to activate the defenses. The turrets do their job, and with the ABCs so close together, they're obliterated. A few try to retreat, but Megabyte closes the rift, and they crash into the firewall. Those in the principal office celebrate, but Dot wanders off alone. Fawn follows.
Fong, we won today. We beat them back. We protected the city. I should be happy, but all I feel is empty. It's like part of me died along with all those virals. How many more must suffer before Megabyte is stopped?
My child, you mourn the loss of innocence, but hope still lives and burns brightly inside you. You are the commander of this system, and you must be strong for all our sakes.
Another beautiful, quiet scene. Fawn continues by saying that now that the viruses are contained, they can look for a way to bring Bob home. This line of thought is clearly used to give Dot hope and a new goal to strive for, but the question is now in the audience's mind as well. Could Bob still be alive? Dot shakes herself out of her funk and returns to the main room. Meanwhile, at the tour, Megabyte talks to Air Doctor as we see Hexadecimal strained once again. The viral tyrant asks the Doctor how long they can expect to keep Hex in check, and the Doctor basically says he has no idea. He even goes so far as to say he doesn't know how they've kept her under control this long. She might even be faking. A strange thought, to be sure. Megabyte also mentions that they're working on their own device to breach the wall, and then asks where Hack and Slash are, to which the Doctor replies they have yet to return. Megabyte is exasperated at their incompetence, and mentions the next time they breach the wall, Hack and Slash will take point. So they can be blown to bits, obviously. We scene shift thusly to our red and blue duo as they're in the process of executing Cyrus. They've chained him to a conveyor belt, basically where he will be eventually crushed by an industrial machine. At the last moment, Slash saves him.
What do you think you're doing?
I am saving the little fellow from what to me looks like certain death.
Yeah, that's right. And we're supposed to be that certain death.
Go, little fellow. Run. Be free.
Now you've done it. Megabyte's gonna be mad.
Oh, what's new? I miss Bob.
What? What? You crazy?
Bob always stopped us before we could do anything really bad. Now nobody does.
Hack mellows out as he listens to what Slash has to say, and the two head back to the tour. This scene might not seem too relevant, but for me, it shows how Megabyte's growing ambition and evil have alienated even his two most loyal lackeys. Perhaps these blokes will have a change of heart? We don't get too much time to contemplate it, because in the next scene, our heroes in the principal office get the alert for an incoming game. Enzo, Andrea, and Frisket leap into action, but not before Dot asks him to be careful, reminding him that he's all she has left. Oh dear, don't do this, Dory. Enzo just tells her everything will be fine, just like before. The trio leave and Mouse consoles Dot, reminding her that everyone has their part to play. The area where the game is to land is evacuated, and Enzo, Andrea, and Frisket are flown in to great fanfare. We see people in the streets cheering him on as he heads in. We also see Megabyte watching from a vid window, laughing at this pretender. We then quickly scene shift to Cyrus, who is now free, but still trapped in Megabyte's sector thanks to the wall. Along the way, he encounters Scuzzy, Hex's pet, on the other side of the wall, and proposes they help each other. And finally, we see within the GameCube, and immediately, the Mortal Kombat vibes are very strong.
It's a tournament-style fighting game between gods, mortals, and demons.
The game is loading the players.
We've got a problem. The user only has to beat 5 opponents to win the game.
So, what's the problem?
There are 12 to choose from. What happens if we reboot and don't get picked? We won't be able to defeat the user. We're not in control here.
What are you saying, Enzo?
This is bad. This is very bad.
Without a doubt, one of the coolest games seen on the show, although the influence, like I said, is very apparent. Back in the principal office, Dot paces nervously around the room, checking monitors and asking questions, clearly anxious about Enzo. Fawn has to tell her to calm down and just wait it out. There's nothing else to be done. He does make an interesting comment about the time discrepancy between normal time and game time, though. A concept we haven't heard about before. Interesting. I wonder if that'll be important at some point. Meanwhile, the game begins.
The user's chosen its form.
Now, the ReBoot wiki page says it's Zayton with a Z, but come on, look at him. They were going for something specific here. Anyways, Enzo explains his game plan to Andrea. She and Frisket will pick a character to reboot as, while Enzo stays unrebooted and tries to reboot at the last second. That way, he can make sure he's picked. Andrea nods at the sound plan and finds, very conveniently, the one character that has both a female fighter and some sort of beast companion. The character portraits are stained glass windows, by the way, which was a great stylistic choice. Meanwhile, Enzo jumps at the window that gets selected for the first match, but misses. The first opponent, named Angel, is just that, and the match begins. And despite some fancy flying and beam attacks, the user gives him a wallop. This user, by the way, is clearly cheating. Like, that character is clearly final boss material. This guy or girl entered a cheat code or something. Anyways, Angel loses handedly, and the user steps in and grabs his head, and the camera pans away as we hear the distinctive sounds of bones cracking. We see shift to hexadecimal, constrained in a force field, and see Scuzzy entering the room. He made it past the firewall. That's all we get of that, but it hints that maybe the firewall isn't as impervious as it should be. Back in the game, the user takes out a jungle warrior character, the fourth of his needed 5 conquests. One fight remains, and Enzo is going to make sure he's it.
No! No! Here! I'm here! Come and get me! Alright, let's do it. Reboot! You can't speak in these things.
This final level takes place coupled with the backdrop of a hellish landscape. Round 1 begins and Enzo leaps into action. Literally, having clearly rebooted as some sort of ninja. His reboot form is very clearly modelled after the character Scorpion from Mortal Kombat, in case you didn't know. Not too much else to say. He starts kicking arse. That's round 1, but things don't go as well for him during round 2, and the user starts pushing back. All the while, Frisket and Andrea watch on and cheer him on the best they can. Enzo blows round 2, and it comes to winner takes all finale. Enzo is weary, but psychs himself up, knowing he needs to pull this off. The match begins solidly, but... oh god. Enzo. He isn't going to make it, is he? He fights as hard as... but he... well... he... he loses. Just before the user can finish him, he taps his icon, and to great surprise, it changes from the usual PID icon to the game sprite mode, like Andrea's badge was. The user's hand grabs Enzo's head, and mercifully, the camera pans to Andrea and Frisket, watching in horror. Andrea, scared and mourning, changes both her and Frisket's badge to the same game sprite symbol. What does that mean? We won't get answers right now. I warned you about the tissues, right? As if we haven't already been stabbed, the episode twists a knife as we now shift to the principal office.
The user wins.
Enzo. No.
I mentioned in my Season 2 wrap-up that ReBoot wasn't afraid to do anything. And yeah, I guess that's true. 2 sucker punches so close together. This obviously marks the final appearance of Christopher Gray as Enzo, and Andrea Lindman as Andrea. The tragedy here is amplified, because with Bob, part of his downfall came narratively from his trusting nature and naivety about Megabyte's betrayal. It was still terrible, of course, but here? Enzo didn't ask for this. It was forced upon him. Bob, the circumstances, and ultimately himself pushed him into a role he wasn't ready for. He couldn't make it work. And now, it's cost him everything. Next episode will usher in a new era. Guaranteed. As for this masterpiece, it's nothing less than a 3 out of 3.